Today on the GrandLAN video blog, Batman, G.I. Joe, Green Lantern Corps, The Phantom, and The Walking Dead. Welcome to the GrandLAN video blog for books that came out on February 11th, 2009. As always, I'm Craig, your host. I hope you enjoyed part one with all of our Marvel books. As you probably saw, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you might be watching it, you can catch part one, I'm sure, right above or left or right, or there'll be a link somewhere. You'll find it. Definitely watch it. This is going to be some DC and some indie stuff. Special shout out to one of our regular viewers, Zoo Crew, who told me to review The Walking Dead, so I gave that a shot today. We'll get to that in just a second. First up, Batman 686. Gaiman and Kubert's Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader is here. We've been waiting and waiting, and we expected this in January. Now we're getting it in February, but hey, we're getting it. And I gotta say, I think it strikes the perfect balance between realism and the fantastic storytelling of Grant Morrison. I think it strikes the perfect balance. We get logical details, we get interesting details, but we also get kind of a fantastic timelessness in this tale. People telling stories about the Batman, and they're not necessarily true, but that's not the point of it, and we are a little confused as to what's going on, why this funeral of sorts and what's going on in it. But overall, it's just really well presented. Andy Kubert hasn't been on his game like this in at least 10 years, possibly longer. That's his thing right here, and it's drawn perfectly, beautifully. And Neil Gaiman has been thinking about this for a long time. I think this is going to appease a lot of people who got lost on Morrison, and it's also going to appease the people who liked Morrison. This is going to stand out as a definite, huge two-issue story arc for Batman, for the history of Batman, for just timelessness. Just an excellent two-parter for whether you've been following RIP, whether you've not been following RIP, it doesn't matter. If you love Batman as a character, you should be reading this book. It's going to make a great hardcover this summer, presented next to Alan Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It sort of fits sort of in that genre. You can see where Gaiman's going with kind of an homage to that, but at the same time, it's its own creature, and that definitely makes it a fascinating piece. Highly, highly recommended. Track it down if you can already, because I'm sure that some people are running out. We're out already. Next up, G.I. Joe #2. Oh yeah, give it that Adam Hughes cover action. All right. I gotta say, this book just gets a little more interesting every time. Yes, I was kind of surprised by the development in issue 1 that we're doing like kind of an ultimization or a relaunch of the G.I. Joes. You're seeing a lot more development along those lines here with the start of the whole Cobra idea. There's some interesting questions. The villains are not all well dressed up and, with Destro's chrome dome and Cobra Commander with the, rag over his head and Baroness walking around with the leather zipper suit. They're not all just in these outlandish costumes, with the Snidely Whiplash mustache, to bring it back to the reference from last week. The villains are not hiding in a bunker all together, working together like costume supervillains like we would expect G.I. Joe to. There are going to be more layers to this, and it's definitely a real-world approach. Chuck Dixon is doing a great job in structuring this story. You can tell he's been working on it for a while, figuring out exactly where he's going to go with it, and that's kind of why it's taken a while to launch this book. I've had a lot of people asking me for it and saying, when is this book going to be out? Well, January, and they had to wait a while, but I think it's going to be well worth the payoff, and I think IDW is definitely doing it right. I think this is a great approach to the book, very interesting idea, and a good treatment for the G.I. Joe license, especially with the movie coming out. So, definitely good stuff. Check it out. Highest possible recommendation for an IDW book, definitely. Our other DC book this week, Green Lantern Corps. We are now starting to get the Blackest Night trade dress. We're moving slowly towards that. We also get an Origins and Omens story, and Tomasi is doing a great job. Peter Tomasi is doing a great job here, writing what you would expect from Starship Troopers. You know, characters who are Marines or enlisted in some sort of sci-fi soldier action, enlisted in this area. What are they going to do? You know, how are they going to approach their problems? What, you know, what's going to happen? How are they dealing with each other during this like militaristic setup? And that's really a fresh approach to the Green Lantern Corps. I don't think we've seen that in a long time. So again, another high quality book. I don't have to say it obviously because it is Green Lantern Corps. It's definitely in the top 5 DC books published every month. But you also get a very nice Mongol side story with the Sinestro Corps. And Mongol's always a fascinating character. But really, this book is just solid. It actually is probably on par with the last Green Lantern story I read, which I've always, you know, said Green Lantern is probably #1, Green Lantern Corps is #2, but I think Tomasi is definitely carving out his own unique niche in this area. Highly, highly recommended. Again, great, great book. Next up, The Phantom from Moonstone. This is #0, and it's a $2 book, and it's not worth $2. It's 16 pages. There's 10 pages of story and there's 6 pages of bio. If you really follow the Phantom in whatever your local newspaper or whatever, okay, you know, if you really are concerned with the pulp hero that, you know, punches people and leaves a skull mark on their head when he punches them, whatever, you know, that's your thing. That's the only way I see people spending $2 on this book, because if you're interested in the Phantom or you're interested in the pulp idea of it, but you're not familiar with it, this is a terrible introduction. It gives you a nice bio, but for $2 you don't get anything. You get a 10-page story, a couple of pinups within those 10 pages, 2 pages entirely of no dialogue, just a montage of things going on. There really is not a lot of background here. You know, this is something that could have been done as a $1 book. It could have been done as a free book. Obviously not with Moonstone's reputation, but at least a $1 or a $1.50 book at most. It's pathetically thin. It's just, it's not good. It's not worth the $2. It's definitely not going to be a collector's issue or anything. And it just doesn't set up a series. Where we might be going with the Phantom license, I don't know. It's just not good. It's definitely missable. In fact, your comic store may not have even ordered it. Last up, The Walking Dead, #58. Again, thanks to Zoo Crew for telling me to read this book. I kind of told him a couple of weeks ago, he asked me to review it, and I said, you know, I might be lost. I'm on issue 58 of The Walking Dead. Sure, I've never read the first 57. I'm not going to know what's going on. Now I understand why Robert Kirkman has his status in comics that he does, because this is an amazing book. Incredible. I picked up one issue out of the blue and was able to make sense of what was going on, even though it's obviously part of a serial and, you know, we're in the midst of the story. I could jump in and feel a single issue of The Walking Dead and understand what The Walking Dead was about. I've got, you know, probably on my great list of things that I need to read this year, I have Why the Last Man, but I'm strongly considering replacing it with all the volumes of The Walking Dead because it's just that interesting. The art is just really striking in black and white, and the storytelling is fascinating to see how these characters, you know, deal with it. It's not a zombie book. It's not a book that people read to see gruesome decapitations. It's a book to see characters being developed in adverse conditions, and it's just so good. And I thought for sure, you know, at this point there was no jumping on point, but there is definitely a jumping on point right here. This is an excellent book, highly recommended. Definitely check it out if you have the possibility. If you at all have the chance, you're not missing a lot by jumping out. You know, check out the volumes. The trade paperbacks are all well in stock. It's great stuff. That's it for this installment. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.